Welcome back to Recruit Me. On today's episode, we have Alayna with us. She is the owner of Your Client Success. Your Client Success works with online business owners, who have coaching programs to improve their customer experience. She currently is living in states 3 months at a time, doing what she classifies as Airbnb hopping. So I can't wait to hear about that, where she moves from state to state living in Airbnbs for 3 months at a time. She loves the game of business and networking with other fellow business owners. Super excited to have you on. I actually got to chat with her last week for her podcast, so get to ask her some questions now, put her in the hot seat a little bit, only teasing. Welcome.
What's up? I'm so excited. I love doing like podcast swaps because it's so fun. Like was having you on my podcast and now I get to experience your podcast. So just super excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's kick it right off, just getting to know more about you, your story, your background, and this whole dynamic of living, stays at a time, 3 months at a time.
Right.
What's this Airbnb hopping?
Okay, so I'll start with that because my story is a little bit long. But as far as the Airbnb hopping, I got my life kind of to a point where I wasn't really connected to any location. And so some context on that, I had gone to college for 2 semesters, had done the typical college thing where it was like, I don't know what I want to do, but I feel the pressure to go. So I'm going to go and I'm just going to do generals and hope that within the time of doing generals, I'll figure out what it is that I want to do. Realized that, finished 2 semesters and was like, no, this is not the thing for me. And so dropped out of college and decided, okay, like I had started to look and do some research on the whole online business thing before I had graduated high school. And so I was really interested in that whole idea of what would an online business look like. And I dropped out of college like right during the time that COVID happened. And so I was looking at kind of my experience and what I had done throughout my life. And something that stood out to me was, well, my mom had homeschooled me and my 5 other siblings. And so she had homeschooled all of us from the point of preschool to graduating from high school as a homeschooler. And so I had never gone to public school before. And I had seen just this whole process that she took us through. And then I had started to tutor kids from parents that were homeschooling their kids. And I helped my younger siblings. And so I was like, well, COVID just happened. And this could be a really cool opportunity to help moms who are wanting to start homeschool get started with homeschool, because I know this world. Like I've been in this world my entire life essentially. And so that was where my first business was born. And I started helping moms get started with their homeschool. I created a group program and I did a course and I did individual one-on-one coaching. And so that was kind of my first start into business, which was really neat. It was a perfect business for the time. A lot of people needed that. And so that was kind of the first thing. After I did that for a while, I realized I don't really like teaching homeschool. Like it's not something that I'm like, oh yeah, I really want to do this for the long term. And so I decided to shift a little bit. And I will admit I've had a lot of pivots in my business kind of career, kind of happens like that sometimes. And so I went from doing kind of like high ticket accountability coaching to just group accountability coaching. And eventually I joined a program where I just took action. Like I showed up, I did the program, I was getting results, and the business owner who had created the program recognized that and was like, hey, like, do you want to come and do like some group accountability and like help people get through the program like you did? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. Like I would love to. And then it kind of started in, hey, do you want to like maybe help us restructure the course so it's easier for people to get in? Like, do you want to start like following up with people? Do you want to be like our customer success manager type of thing? And I was like, this is awesome. And so that allowed me to replace, I was doing a cleaning job on top of my business to try and pay bills and everything. So I was able to completely replace that cleaning job. And I started working remotely 100% for this company. And I have now switched it to, I still do customer success for businesses, but I built a company around that and now helping people and people with online businesses really grow and improve their customer experience. So all of that is leading up to answering this question of why 3 months living in states 3 months at a time. That had gotten me into a place with everything that I had done with my business where I was no longer location dependent. I didn't have a job. Side note is I did ballroom for 13 years. I danced professionally as a ballroom dancer. And so my studio had closed and I wasn't really looking to pursue that anymore. So that wasn't keeping me in my location. I was living in Utah. I grew up in Utah. And so I was like, okay, I haven't really lived anywhere or seen any of the East Coast or even like the Midwest. I hadn't seen too much of it. I've been all over the West Coast for competitions, but it was like, it would be really cool to like go and like live in these places, to have a place where it's beyond just a 2-week vacation, some place where you'd go and it's like, we're going to live here. And you approach living in places a lot different than vacationing in places. And I wanted to approach it like, I'm going to live in these places. And so my boyfriend and I were like, what if we just packed up everything and moved and moved to Florida? We picked Florida because I had a lot of business conferences in Florida during the time that we wanted to move. So I was like, well, that'd be perfect. I could just be there. But we didn't want to do the nomad, like living on the road style. We still had things and like material things that we wanted to keep with us. And so we're like, well, what if we do like Airbnb, because it's furnished? We wouldn't have to bring furniture, but we could still like store our like possessions there, and we could just fit all of our possessions in the car. And so we decided that that was the route that we were going to take. And so we sold all of our furniture. We packed up everything that we could in our car. We drove for 6 days from Utah to Florida. That was August of 2022. And now we've been just living in different states, different Airbnbs for almost a year now. And so we started in Florida, we've done North Carolina, we've done Tennessee, we've done Kentucky, we've done Maryland, and we're getting ready to move to Vermont in 2 weeks. So yeah, that's the whole story there.
Quite the story. I mean, my gosh, so many different pieces within that. The ballroom dancing, love that added in there. Yep. But yeah, I mean, such an interesting mindset that it seems like in general, you've really taken these opportunities, these moments of your life experience, and then said, how can I kind of shift them into kind of, you know, either make my next adventure or help others. And then also not to mention that others have really noticed it and then been like, hey, so this is very, very cool. I cannot wait to hear more about kind of how things grew. So where was that initial shift to start your client success? When was it that you were like, I want to do this, this makes sense? And you know, was the homeschooling piece of it something that really kind of kickstarted you knowing I can do this, like I can do this on my own as well?
Well, so I remember the first time that I made money online, and it was just a $97 sale of one of my courses. And I had felt like I had made $1 million. I was like, this is amazing. Like I can make money online. And so that was probably like the first moment that I can remember that broke that belief of like, I can actually sell things that are valuable. And then as I kind of continued with the different businesses, I have found that the more that I'm willing to do things and then talk about my experience and go, this has been my experience and I can help you as well because I have this experience, this is my opinion, right? That has led to being able to provide value in different marketplaces. And so by doing that and trusting in myself and my ability and always putting I'm going to do this first before I ever go and teach it, right? That has led me to being able to be confident in what I'm selling and what I'm pitching. And that's really how that Your Client Success business was started. Is I started from, I was a customer success manager. I still do it for the companies that I started with. And so now being able to go and confidently speak to other businesses and go, yeah, I can help you improve your customer experience, that type of thing. I can do that confidently because I've already done it. And it's not something that it's like, oh, I'm just trying to sell something that is hot on the market right now, or that looks cool, or just talk about something that I haven't done, because by doing it, it gives me real confidence instead of just this like facade of, I don't know if I can actually help people with this type thing.
Absolutely. No, it's amazing. Would you do anything differently?
I don't know if I would do anything differently, but I think some things that I could look back and go, I should have improved on this and can improve on this in the future, like lessons learned, is I think sticking to things when they get boring. So I've done a lot of pivots in my business and gone, okay, homeschool, I'll pivot from this to this to this. And I found that oftentimes I do it because I'm bored. And it's like I want I want more of a challenge, or this it's kind of, think about it like a new relationship. Like when you get into a new relationship, everything's new and it's exciting. And then you've been there for a while and you're like, it just doesn't have that feeling at the beginning, right? And so then, okay, I'll just go get a new relationship. It was kind of like that with businesses. It was like, oh, it's so exciting, I'm so passionate about this, and then it doesn't have that feeling like it did before. So that must mean that I'm not passionate about it. So I need to go and switch and find something else. And just doing that again and again and again, I think just did not to have any of the businesses really build a strong foundation, because business is hard and it takes effort, consistent effort, and quantity of effort to actually start to see results and to see the business take off and become what you imagine it to become. And so I think for me, it's learning from that and going, how do I now approach boredom, and how do I now commit to the business and go, even if this does become something that is boring at times, how do I work through that? Because by doing that and consistently showing up for it, I can build something really great. It's about being committed to it and consistent while working on it, though.
Right. As someone who I think suffers from a very similar disease that you've described there, have you found ways, because I'm sure there's people out there everywhere, and that can go for a job, that can go for anything you're doing in your life. Have you found ways to sort of combat that boredom and stick with something even when it starts to not feel as exciting and new anymore?
Yeah, so I will admit I'm no expert on this. This is definitely something that I'm working through. But I think for me, like a process that I went through just barely was taking some time to like talk to myself about what is the consequences going to be by committing to this, right? And going, what is it actually going to look like to commit to this? And thinking through that process and imagining that and writing that out, and then actually having a conversation with myself, like looking in the mirror, having a conversation and going, are you willing to commit to this? Like, are you going to stick to this? And what happens when this thing gets hard? And what happens when you get bored? And talking those things out with myself. I know it can be a little strange sometimes to go, oh, you're going to have a conversation with yourself, but we all have a conversation with ourselves. Like, even if you're not talking out loud, you're talking in your head, right? And if you're not, then that's concerning, right? So we're always having conversations with ourselves. And so like, get real and get honest and go, okay, I know that I have a track record of jumping around from things to thing. So I can learn from that and go, when this pattern shows up again, how will I handle it differently? And so having that honest conversation. And then I think constantly putting yourselves in positions to be bored with the intention to work through that. So one way that I do this is when I work out, I love to work out. I will go and get on the stair steppers for 35 minutes. And the stair steppers are the most boring machine that there was ever invented. It's like, just imagine walking up millions of flight of stairs, but you're not actually getting anywhere. You're just, it's like a treadmill, but worse. And so it's like, I'll do that at least once every single week to just go, I'm going to stick on this. It's hard. You sweat a lot and it sucks and it's boring as all get out. And by doing that, I'm training myself to be able to handle boredom. And so I think finding those things to put yourself in situations where you just are bored and figuring out how to work through that. Another way could be turning off your phone, like sitting by yourself and just turning off your phone and not like accessing anything else. A cool exercise that I try to do that is like, if I'm trying to focus on one thing, it'd be like, okay, you can do this thing. So let's say I'm trying to finish a book. You can read this book, but you can't do anything else. So you don't have to read this book, but you can't do anything else. You could just sit there and like sit and think, but you can't be on your phone. You can't be watching. You can't talk to anybody. You either read the book or you just sit there. Like, those are your two options. And so it's like that can start to train the ability, because I think working through boredom and getting over boredom is a skill that you acquire.
Wow. Yeah. Some great tips. I think I'm gonna have to put some of those things into practice.
Yeah. And then you have to let me know how they go.
Yeah. With some of the advice you've already shared, what else could you say to someone if someone's on the fence about starting a business? Whether it be that they want to do something on the side or they want to kind of leave a job, start something, they're really on that precipice. Is there any kind of advice or something that you would tell a prior you, now after knowing what you know?
So there's a whole bunch of things that are unexpected in business, and there's so many things that you just can't say, like what's going to happen with business. And so people who definitely lean on the I need certainty, variety is not my jam type thing, it may not be the best direction for you, because it is going to be really uncertain. And I see you nodding because right? It's really impossible to talk about it. And it's also at the same time, like if you were to like pull off the blinders of your eyes, let's say you're first starting something and you'd pull off the blinders and go, this is all of the things that you'd have to go through to like get the thing that you want, like you'd probably quit. I think of when I was dancing ballroom, like my coach was like, I remember asking him one time, like, why can't I know more? Like, why can't you tell me like what I need to do? And like, what are all the things that are going to come up and all the things that I need to do? Like, I want a list. And he's like, if I gave you the list, one, I can't give you a list because I can't predict all of that. But two, if I gave you the list, you would quit before you even got started, because you're going to have to do things that are going to be difficult and they're going to be hard. And you may not be ready to actually admit that right now because you haven't become the person to handle those challenges. And so I think instead of going into business with the idea of I need to know exactly what needs to happen, I need to know like what is going to be the case, like that's not how it's going to be. And so in my personal opinion, the best way to approach starting a business is going in with the idea and the mindset that everything is my fault. Like this is my responsibility. If this business sinks, if it fails, that's on me because I'm the one that's directing the ship. Your business is the ship and you're writing the map. You're going, this is where we go. And since it's new, you're bound to lead the ship into the rocks at some point. And it's up to you to go, when I do I rebuild the boat? Or do I quit and get off and get on the beach type of thing? Or do I rebuild the boat? Do I rebuild the business? And most people will not take responsibility to that level and they blame it on other people outside of themselves. They go, oh, it must have been my coach. My coach didn't help me enough. My coach wasn't good enough for me. I have to go find a different coach. Or it must have been my team. Like they weren't communicating enough with me, or they weren't helping me enough. And so that must have been them. Or it must have been the market. The market just hates me and they don't want to buy any of my products, or whatever you want to blame it on, right? Really, when it comes down to it, none of that solves your problems. What solves your problems is going, what role did I have to play in this? And what am I going to do now? And by focusing on that and continuing to show up for it, I think eventually you will find success, but it's going to be hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Love the boat reference. And it sounds like there's a lot of things that you've already been through a lot of trials and tribulations. So we're hearing that, you're going to the gym, you're working out. There's practices in your life that have taught you, but what kind of success or ways are you able to find that success in your day to day? What things or what, I guess, tips or tricks you have that you can be successful day to day? How are you being that?
For me, the first thing is always doing what I say I'm going to do. And so I know most people will plan out their days a week in advance, or they'll do it the night before and they'll have a whole list of things that they need to do. But most people don't take those lists very seriously, and they put too much on those lists and they go, oh, I can accomplish 50 things in 2 hours. No, probably not. Like if you actually thought about what it would take, right? You probably can't. So you're setting yourself up for failure, but you're also putting yourself in a position where you are constantly proving to yourself that you don't do what you say you're going to do. And that will constantly get you to lose self-respect. Over time, you'll get to the point where you have no respect for yourself anymore because you don't do what you say you're going to do. You don't show up the way that you want to show up. And so for me, the biggest way to win is to look at my day. And I have the way that I schedule my day, I check off like my tasks and go, did I do it? Yes or no? To have all of my yeses and my greens and gone, yeah, like I did this, I stay focused. And if I'm like, oh, I didn't get done what I needed to get done, then that's a priority problem for me. Like I needed to have then put something else on the schedule and replace it with something else. But I think that is one of the biggest ways to find successes on the day-to-day, is to go, I did what I said I was going to do. I showed up for that. And I can be really, really proud of that because I did. And so that's one way. Another way that I've been testing out recently is whenever I do something that I'm particularly proud of myself for doing. And they're small things. I've been logging a lot of the recent physical stuff because I'm training for a 10K. I've never run 10K before in my life. And so that's a whole process. And what I'll do is whenever I complete a really hard running session or complete a hard session at the gym, is I have some post-it notes next to my desk, and I'll cut them up in these little squares, and I'll write what I did, like just simply what I did. And then I'll fold them up and put them in a little bag next to my desk. And so whenever there's those times of like doubt or like I haven't been doing anything, because I think we always get into those, we can tend to get into those spaces where it's like, oh, I'm not making any improvements, I'm just not doing anything good, right? We can get into those holes sometimes. I can easily pull those out and go, wow, like remember the time when I ran 3 miles when I didn't want to, or when it was 6 a.m. and it was raining, or when I did that stair stepper for 35 minutes, even though I wanted to die, type of thing. Like I can now look at those and remind myself of the wins that I have had and the positive experiences that I have had in my life. And they're all tangible right there on paper. And so that's another way to just remind yourself of the ways that you do win, because I think it's really easy to just think about all the negative stuff, all of the stuff that you're not doing, all of the ways that you're not enough. And I think it's important to remember the positive moments within your days and go, yeah, this was a good moment. And then try to be around and recreate those moments as much as possible.
Amazing, amazing advice. I love the bag. I love the reminders, because you're so right. You do get into these ruts, especially depending on your day, what you have going on. I love lists, but I over list my lists. My lists get together with babies and things get moved over, and it's just crazy. So that definitely get you into a rut. And I love having a bag of some positive reminders of things you've done. So you've also mentioned that you love networking, and that, you know, something that you are fantastic at, but it can be very daunting. It can be very difficult for people to network. What kind of advice do you have for people that may be struggling with networking, getting themselves out there?
Well, I appreciate you say that I'm good at it, because I really internally, I'm like, I don't feel good at it. Like it's something that I'm still actively working on as well. Especially when it comes to in-person networking. Like I get nervous, like going up to strangers at events, like business events, and just like starting conversations with people. I'm quite good when I'm in the conversation, but it's like, trying to actually start the conversation is a whole nother process. So something that one of my friends was talking to me about, someone who is kind of those, like, they're a people person, they're able to just really connect with all people on all levels. I'm like, wow, I just need to learn from you more. Something that they recommended that I do was think of, like, before I go to a business event, or if I'm trying to make connections with people online or whatever like that, is to think about 3 different phrases that I could use to start a conversation and to essentially break the ice. And so I have these 3 phrases in my head that I've memorized. And now when I walk up to somebody, I have something to say instead of just, hey, like, what's up? Like, where's this conversation going to go? Right. I have some things that are going to lead and spark a conversation, where then that's where I can really shine, because then it's like, okay, now I know we're talking, right? But it's actually starting. So I think coming up with some phrases could be helpful to go, this is what I'm actually going to say when I talk to people. Another way is, I think, making the effort to get to know people and to be in conversations with people on a daily basis. And so connecting with people that you meet online, right? And starting to have conversations with that. I know the messaging strategy of Facebook and organic marketing can be a little bit saturated at times. There's a lot of people sending a lot of pitchy messages and everything like that. I get that. But if you come at it from the place of, I'm genuinely trying to get to know these people and connect with people and just spark a conversation. Facebook makes it real easy. You can just look on their profile and go, what have they been posting about? Like, what are they interested in? And can I speak to them about something that I'm interested in? And by doing that, I've been able to make a lot of podcast connections. I've been able to make friends. Like, I probably have more friends that I've met online than people in person. And so when I meet them in person, it's like, oh my gosh, like, it's opposite. Like, I'm meeting you, I met you online, but now we're meeting meeting in person, it's a weird feeling, but it's by me being able to reach out and just connect with people, and follow up with people. And, I think setting the expectation to follow up on a daily basis of sending messages to new people on a daily basis and reconnecting with old friends as well.
Absolutely. I think your friend gave you some fantastic advice. They definitely sound like they are a people person, someone who can know
Yeah.
people, but it's nice that, someone who has that skill can give advice like that. Are
Yeah.
there other pieces of advice you've been given, or would you say that there's any piece of advice you've been given that's the best piece of advice you've ever been given that stuck with you?
Oh, like ever? Like best piece of
Ever.
advice ever?
Or even advice maybe now you give that you would say is like top notch, best thing you've ever, you ever be able to give to someone.
Oh, oh man, this is hard because there's so many
It doesn't have
good
to be like
things.
the number one.
Okay, that takes a little bit of pressure
Yeah,
off.
it doesn't have to be like the best thing ever, but just like some good advice. It's always so great to talk to different people, like you said too. And you really get humbled and reminded that we've all gone through such different experiences in our lives and met different people and had different people say to us, well, that's a great piece of advice that your friend had given you. And a lot of people, it's hard to just walk up to someone. So it's always nice to hear what everyone has to say about different advice they've been given.
It's true. Okay, so I've got one, and this is something that my coach, my ballroom coach, would always say to us. And I didn't really think about what it meant until like later on. I was like, wow, this is powerful. And so something that he would always say is, we practice so that in the face of adversity, we can overcome all odds.
Wow.
So I'll say that one more time. We practice so that in the face of adversity, we can overcome all odds. And I love that. I love that saying. I love that piece of advice because it shows that even in the toughest of moments, even when you're down and the emotion isn't there and you don't feel motivated and there's a whole bunch of adversity, right? If you've prepared for it, if you have done the work to be the person that can handle those situations, you can overcome anything. You can work through any kind of obstacle. And really, the hope in that whole statement is that you have the control to be the type of person that can handle adversity and can overcome any odds. You just have to be willing to make that decision and show up as that person each and every day, which that's the hard part. But the idea that you have the control over that, and you can now use that to overcome any odds in your life, is incredibly hopeful for me and motivating to me to encourage me to get better.
Incredibly powerful. So powerful. I can definitely understand why you're saying that, over the years and looking back, you realize now how powerful it is.
Yeah.
Because, in the moment, I'm sure it gets very connotated to, practice and ballroom
practice.
Yeah,
We're in the
exactly.
studio. Yeah, exactly.
Now you're like, wait a minute, this applies to life in general.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And I love what you said about showing up for yourself. And really, that is Recruit Me. So this title, this app, showing up for yourself. And I always love to ask our guests, what does the term Recruit Me, mean to you? From hearing it, what would you take away from that title?
Yeah, so from hearing that phrase, I think it's about really showing up as somebody who can be innovative, right? Somebody who can take responsibility. And it's essentially you're putting your best foot forward and going, like, this is who I am. This is who I'm committing to be, because you're looking to recruit me. Like, you're looking at me and my skills and my ability to adapt to situations and solve problems and things like that. And by you taking responsibility for you and going, hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to give 100% of myself. Like, I'm going to be here. I'm going to make the company better. Right. I think that that is very, very attractive for a business owner that's looking to hire. And it's something that, again, going back to, I learned a lot of great lessons in my ballroom dancing years, but something else was in ballroom, you dance with a partner. And I know a lot of people talk about like relationships or ballroom partnerships as one person gives 50% and another person gives 50%, and that equals 100, right? But the best partnerships were the partnerships of people who came in and gave their 100%, and then the other person came in and gave 100%, because then that equals 200%, which makes it added experience, right? It's not two people dragging each other down going, we can only give 100%. It's I'm adding to your experience because I'm bringing another 100% to your 100%. And that's what Recruit Me is. It's like, to me, that's what it means to me is like, I'm coming in and I'm going to offer 100% to your company to add experience and to add innovation and to add just overall improvement because I'm willing to give 100% and play full out because you are and you're looking to recruit me. And I think that that's a very valuable trait in a hire.
Truly love that. I think that's amazing. Definitely very popular now. Everyone reminding ourselves, to fill up your own cup. But I love the way that you explain that. And that's incredibly powerful and a huge reminder. So love that lots. This has been so fun. It's been so nice getting to know a little bit more about your background and this trajectory, where you got to today. Anything else that you definitely want to share with our listeners before I ask you about where they can find you?
Oh man. I think that when it comes down to it all, just reminding yourself that at any moment you can choose to be different. You can choose to be the person that you want to be. And the best way to do that is to take action. I know for me at times I've gotten stuck in the thinking tank where it's literally, okay, well, I want to do this different. I want to be this different person. I want to take this different action. So what do I need to do? I need to map it all out. I need to sit down and think about it and that type of thing. But really, you're probably just going to think over the same things that you've been thinking over the past 3 months that you've been trying to solve this problem, or however long you've been trying to solve this problem. And so in the end, when it comes down to it, it's just about doing the thing. Do the thing, take the action, and that will give you clarity because action cures all. Action will cure all of your insecurities, your doubt, your lack of clarity. It will cure that. And so by committing to take action, even when there's doubt, even when you don't feel like everything's right, do it anyway, and then you can reevaluate.
Wow. Action cures all. Love that. A lot of powerful messages today. I can't thank you enough. So where can our listeners, I know I have the links, but where social media wise, where should they go to make sure they can follow up with you and get more of this great advice always?
Yes. Okay. So Facebook, just Alayna Zenger on Facebook is going to be a big place. I do a lot of content posting on my podcast there. You'll see Katarina on there soon. And so you'll definitely want to go check that out. And then if you're interested in learning more on the business side of things, you can go to yourclientsuccess.com. That is our website. So you can go and check that out as well.
Awesome. I'll make sure I have those links on the YouTube channel, on the podcast as well, so we can make sure all our listeners find you. Again, Perfect. Thank you so much. It has been a true pleasure getting to talk to you again.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. And please continue to recruit yourself every day.